I remember the exact moment everything changed. I was sitting in my corner office at Clarion Test Group, reviewing the final contract terms on my laptop screen. After 3 months of negotiations, I'd just secured a $4.2 million deal with the State Board for Educational Testing Services. It was the biggest contract we'd landed in 3 years. My phone buzzed with a text from our CEO. "Great work on the state contract, Walt. You're a legend." I smiled, leaning back in my chair. 18 years with this company, and moments like these reminded me why I loved what I did. The testing services we provided helped thousands of students across the Midwest get fair assessments. I printed the signed contract and walked it down to accounting. Sarah from finance high-fived me in the hallway. "Walt, I heard about the state deal. You just saved our quarterly numbers." Even the security guard, Marcus, grinned when I passed. "Mr. Hensley, you're the man." Back in my office, I organized my files and prepared tomorrow's client presentation. The sun was setting through my window, casting long shadows across the papers on my desk. I felt proud, accomplished. After nearly 2 decades, I still had my edge. Little did I know, this would be my last normal day at Clarion. My laptop chimed at 11:47 p.m. I was at home, brushing my teeth before bed, when I heard the notification from my home office. Curious, I walked over and opened my email. The subject line made my blood freeze. Strategic Realignment, Transition Notice. The sender was HR. Not my boss, not the CEO who'd texted me hours earlier. Just a cold corporate email address. "Dear Walt, as part of our ongoing strategic realignment initiatives, your position will be eliminated effective immediately. Your access to company systems has been deactivated. Please coordinate with HR for return of company property. We appreciate your contributions over the years. Best regards, Human Resources Department." I read it 3 times, my hands shaking slightly. 18 years of service, millions in contracts, hundreds of relationships built, and they fired me with a form email at midnight. I tried logging into my work systems, access denied. My company phone showed no signal. They'd already cut me off. I sat in my home office chair, staring at the screen, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. The state contract I'd signed today would generate millions for them, and they'd waited until after I delivered it to throw me away. The next morning, I drove to the office with my badge and laptop bag. The parking lot looked the same, but everything felt different. I walked through the front doors, approaching the security desk where Marcus usually sat. Instead, there was a young woman I didn't recognize. "I'm here to return company property," I said, holding up my badge and laptop. She looked confused, checking her computer. "Name?" "Walt Hensley." Her eyes widened slightly. "Oh, yes, sir. There's a box waiting for you." She handed me a small cardboard box with my name written in black marker. Inside were the few personal items from my desk: a coffee mug, some family photos, a stress ball from a vendor. I looked toward the hallway leading to my office. My nameplate was already gone. Just blank wall where Walt Hensley, Senior Account Manager, used to be. 2 coworkers walked by, making awkward eye contact. Jennifer from marketing whispered, "Walt, I thought you retired." "No," I said quietly. "I didn't retire." The security guard took my badge and laptop, scanning them into her system. 18 years of my career, reduced to a property return receipt. I carried my box to the parking lot, feeling eyes watching me through office windows. That afternoon, I met my replacement. His name was Ronan Pierce, and he looked like he'd stepped out of a business magazine. 35 years old, perfectly styled hair, expensive suit, confident handshake. He'd already moved into my office. "Walt, great to meet you, man," he said, flashing a practiced smile. "I've heard incredible things about your tenure here. Really looking forward to building on what you've created." I studied his face, looking for any hint of guilt or awkwardness. There was none. He genuinely seemed to think this was just a normal transition. "The state contract," I said. "You know I closed that yesterday?" "Yeah, I saw that. Fantastic work. Really sets me up for success. I've got some exciting plans to modernize our approach. We're thinking AI integration, automated diagnostics, maybe some machine learning for student assessment patterns." He talked for 10 minutes about buzzwords and efficiency metrics. Not once did he mention the human side of education or the relationships I'd spent years building with superintendents and teachers. "Well," I said finally, "good luck with all that." As I walked away, I heard him on his phone. Yeah, the transition was smooth. The old guy was ready to move on anyway. Old guy. Ready to move on. Elena Martinez had been my assistant for 8 years. She was smart, loyal, and knew the business better than most managers. 2 days after my firing, she texted me. Coffee? I have something to show you. We met at a diner outside town. Elena looked nervous, glancing around before pulling out her phone. I shouldn't be showing you this, but... She opened an internal presentation titled Clary AI, the Future of Educational Assessment. I scrolled through the slides. Ronan's plan was to replace all human testing specialists with AI systems, automated test creation, computer-generated student evaluations, algorithmic learning assessments. The presentation promised to cut staffing costs by 60%. Look at slide 12, Elena whispered. There it was, a timeline showing my position and 4 others being eliminated over 6 months. My firing wasn't about performance, it was about clearing the way for Ronan's automation project. The scary part, Elena continued, is that the AI system is barely functional. I've seen the test runs. It can't handle special needs accommodations, gives bizarre scoring on essay questions, and crashes when processing large data sets. She showed me error logs from internal testing. The system had flagged a 3rd-grade student as potentially dangerous because she wrote about her pet snake. They're planning to roll this out to all our school districts, Elena said. It's going to be a disaster. That night, I sat in my home office with a cup of coffee and my personal financial files. I'd always lived modestly, despite earning a decent salary. No fancy cars, no expensive vacations. I'd invested consistently in index funds and kept my spending low. The numbers on my screen told a story. $7.2 million in total assets. My house was paid off, my retirement accounts were well funded. I'd been careful with money my entire adult life. I opened a fresh notebook and wrote Plan A at the top of the first page. Then I stared at the blank lines below it, thinking about Ronan's smug face and the broken AI system that would soon affect thousands of students. My phone rang. It was Dr. Patricia Williams, a superintendent I'd worked with for 12 years. Walt, I just heard about Clarion. I'm so sorry. You've been incredible to work with over the years. Thank you, Patricia. That means a lot. Between you and me, she continued, we're not thrilled about the new direction they're taking. Some kind of AI system? We're considering other options when our contract comes up for renewal. After hanging up, I wrote my first note in the Plan A notebook. Clients are already asking questions. Something was forming in my mind. A quiet, careful plan. Harriet Klein had been one of my best students when I taught a business ethics course at the community college 15 years ago. Now she ran Klein Capital, an ethical investment firm with over $200 million in assets. I called her on a Thursday morning. Walt, what a surprise. How are things at Clarion? Actually, that's why I'm calling. I'm no longer with Clarion. What, after all these years, what happened? I explained the situation, keeping it factual and professional. Harriet listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. That's horrible, Walt, and frankly, it's stupid business. You're one of the most respected people in educational services. Harriet, I want to discuss a potential business opportunity. Would you be interested in meeting? We scheduled lunch for the following week. I spent the weekend preparing a presentation about the educational testing market, Clarion's weaknesses, and the gap left by their move toward automation. I'm thinking about a strategic acquisition, I told her over salad. There might be an opportunity to buy some of Clarion's regional operations. Harriet raised an eyebrow. You want to buy part of the company that just fired you? I want to build something better. And I think there's a profitable way to do it. She smiled. Now you're talking my language. Tell me more. Over the next 2 weeks, I had quiet coffee meetings with former Clarion employees. Word had spread quickly about the AI project and the coming layoffs. 3 more testing specialists had been let go, and 2 others were actively looking for new jobs. Maria Santos, who'd been with the company for 11 years, met me at a park near her house. Walt, they're completely changing everything you built. No more personal relationships with schools. No more customized testing solutions. Everything's supposed to be automated. She looked exhausted. I spent yesterday trying to explain to a principal why the AI system recommended psychological evaluation for a student who wrote about wanting to be a veterinarian. The algorithm flagged animal obsession as concerning. Tom Bradley, another veteran employee, shared similar stories. The system can't handle our rural schools at all. Different internet speeds, different computer setups, but Ronan keeps saying we need to scale efficiently and eliminate human error. Each person I talked to shared the same frustration. They wanted to help students, but the new direction made that impossible. They also shared something else. They trusted me and would consider working for me if I started something new. What if I told you I was thinking about starting a company? I asked Maria. I'd say, when do I start? I rented a small office space in a quiet business park across town. The sign outside read ArcEd Education Solutions LLC. Inside, there were 3 desks, a small conference table, and a coffee machine. I'd hired Maria, Tom, and Jennifer Walsh, another Clarion refugee. We operated under strict confidentiality agreements. No one could know we were planning to compete with Clarion until the time was right. Our official story was that we were doing educational consulting for homeschool networks. Our real work was different. We were designing a testing service that combined the best technology with human expertise. Real people would review every assessment. Real educators would design every test. Real relationships would guide every client interaction. It's like the opposite of what Clarion's doing, Jennifer said during our first team meeting. Exactly, I replied. They're removing humans from education. We're putting humans back at the center. We spent our days quietly reaching out to contacts, researching the market, and building our service model. In the evenings, I worked on the bigger plan, finding a way to acquire part of Clarion itself. The best revenge I was learning wasn't getting mad. It was getting strategic. My relationships with school superintendents ran deep. I'd helped their districts through budget crises, testing emergencies, and state compliance issues. They trusted my judgment, so when I called with a casual suggestion, they listened. Patricia, I said during a call with Dr. Williams, I'd recommend holding off on renewing your Clarion contract when it expires. Why? Is there a problem? Let's just say there might be better options coming available soon. New companies entering the market, more personalized service models. I had similar conversations with 5 other superintendents across the region. Nothing pushy or unethical, just friendly advice from someone they'd worked with for years. You know, said Dr. Robert Chen from Westfield District, we've been frustrated with Clarion lately anyway. The new account manager keeps talking about AI systems and automation. We want people who understand education, not algorithms. I completely understand that perspective, I said. Within 2 weeks, I heard through the grapevine that 3 districts were reassessing their testing partnerships. Clarion's revenue from contract renewals was starting to look uncertain. This wasn't sabotage. This was just good advice to friends who deserve better service than what Clarion was planning to provide. Ronan's first big presentation was a disaster. I heard about it from Elena, who attended as an assistant to the sales team. Clari AI was being demonstrated to a room full of education officials from across the state. The system crashed twice, Elena texted me. During the live demo, Ronan kept saying, "This usually works perfectly," while the screen showed error messages. But the real problem came when they demonstrated the essay scoring feature. The AI system was supposed to evaluate a sample of student writing about their summer vacation. Instead, it flagged a perfectly normal essay about going camping as potentially violent content because the student mentioned shooting stars and hunting for the best campsite. Everyone in the room started looking at each other like, "Is this guy serious?" Elena continued. Dr. Martinez from the state board actually laughed out loud. The video of the presentation somehow ended up on YouTube with the title, "AI Gone Wrong in Education." It had 50,000 views in 3 days. The comment section was brutal. I watched it that evening, feeling a mix of satisfaction and genuine concern. This broken system was going to affect real students in real schools. Ronan's incompetence wasn't just embarrassing, it was potentially harmful. While researching Clarion's corporate structure, I discovered something interesting. During their cost-cutting measures the previous year, they'd let several old trademarks lapse, including the name Clarion Educational Services Midwest Division. The trademark had been abandoned for 8 months. Under federal law, it was now available for purchase by anyone willing to file the paperwork. I paid $1 to acquire it. Legally, I now owned the trademark to Clarion's Midwest operations. It was a small piece of leverage, but potentially valuable if Clarion ever wanted to use that name again or if there was confusion in the marketplace. More importantly, it gave me an idea. What if the Midwest division could become an independent company? Clarion had been struggling financially. Their parent corporation might be interested in selling off regional operations if the price was right. I called my lawyer, Frank Morrison, who specialized in business acquisitions. Frank, hypothetically, if someone wanted to buy a division of a struggling company, how would that work? Well, he said, it depends on how desperate they are to shed liabilities. Why? Just curious about the process. Walt, are you planning something I should know about? Maybe. I'll call you when I'm ready. Harriet's investment firm was known for ethical acquisitions, buying struggling companies and turning them around while treating employees fairly. When I pitched her the idea of acquiring Clarion's Midwest division, her eyes lit up. So you're saying Clarion is about to lose several major contracts, their AI system is failing, and they're cutting costs everywhere. That's what the market indicators suggest, I said carefully. And you think they might be willing to sell their regional operations? I think they might be motivated to reduce their liabilities, yes. Harriet leaned back in her chair. Walt, this is brilliant. We could acquire their existing contracts, their client relationships, and their physical assets, but not their corporate debt or their failing technology initiatives. She pulled out her phone and called her business development team. I want you to research Clarion Test Group. Look into their financial situation and see if they might be interested in divesting regional operations. 2 days later, she called me back. They're in worse shape than we thought. Parent company stock is down 30% this year. They're looking to offload anything that's not core business. So you're saying they might listen to an offer? I'm saying they might beg us to take it off their hands. The meeting was set up as a routine consultation. A representative from Klein Capital would meet with Clarion's leadership to discuss potential synergies in the education services market. I attended as Harriet's educational sector consultant. Ronan was in the room, along with Clarion's CFO and 2 board members. They had no idea who I was. We're interested in acquiring regional operations in growing markets, Harriet explained, particularly in the Midwest where we see opportunities for expansion. The CFO's ears perked up. The Midwest division has been challenging from a cost perspective. Rural markets, smaller contracts, higher service costs. That's exactly what we're looking for, Harriet said smoothly. We specialize in making those markets profitable. Ronan jumped in. Of course, we'd want to ensure any transition maintained our technological innovations. Clari AI is revolutionizing the industry. I kept my face neutral, taking notes like a good consultant, but inside, I was smiling. He was actually trying to sell them on the broken AI system. Interesting, Harriet said. We'd want to conduct our own technology assessment. After an hour of discussions, the CFO said, we'd definitely be interested in exploring this further. As we left the building, Ronan held the door for me. Thanks for your time today, Mr. Hensley, I said. Walt Hensley. His face went white. The due diligence process moved quickly. Clarion's parent company was eager to divest operations that weren't generating strong margins. The Midwest division had good client relationships but required too much hands-on management for their taste. Harriet's team conducted financial reviews, asset assessments, and market analysis. Everything checked out. More importantly, the division's existing contracts would transfer with the sale, meaning we'd inherit relationships I'd spent years building. The final negotiation happened on a Thursday afternoon. Clarion's legal team, Harriet's lawyers, and various executives gathered in a downtown conference room. The purchase price was set at $2.8 million, much less than the division's annual revenue. There is one condition, Clarion's attorney said. The acquiring company agrees to maintain current AI integration plans and technological partnerships. Harriet looked at me across the table. I shook my head slightly. We'll need full operational autonomy, she replied. Technology decisions will be made by new management. After 2 hours of back and forth, they agreed. The Midwest division of Clarion Test Group would become a wholly owned subsidiary of Klein Capital, operating as ArchEd Education Solutions. Papers were signed. Checks were written. Handshakes were exchanged. I now owned the company that had fired me. The announcement meeting was scheduled for the following Monday. All Midwest Division employees were required to attend. The invitation simply said a transitional director would be introduced to guide the division under new ownership. I arrived early and stood in the back of the conference room. Familiar faces filled the chairs. Some people I'd worked with for years, others who were newer but had heard stories about me. They looked nervous, uncertain about their futures. Elena sat in the front row, sneaking glances at me with barely contained excitement. She was the only one who knew what was coming. At exactly 9 a.m., Harriet walked to the front of the room. "Good morning, everyone. As you know, this division has been acquired by Klein Capital. We're committed to maintaining the excellent service standards you've built while providing new growth opportunities." Murmurs rippled through the room. "I'd like to introduce your new director, someone who understands this business better than anyone." She gestured toward me. "Please welcome Walt Hensley." The room erupted. Gasps, applause, people turning to stare. Sarah from accounting started crying. Marcus from security pumped his fist in the air. I walked to the front, trying to keep my composure. "Well," I said, "I guess I'm back." The applause continued for nearly a minute. My first order of business was visiting Ronan in what used to be my office. He was packing files into boxes when I knocked on the doorframe. "Walt, this is unexpected." "I imagine it is." I pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I have something for you." It was a printout of the email that had fired me, but with his name replacing mine. The subject line read, Strategic Realignment, Transition Notice. "Dear Ronan," I read aloud, "as part of our ongoing strategic realignment initiatives, your position will be eliminated effective immediately. Your access to company systems has been deactivated. We appreciate your contributions over the years." His face went through several emotions: confusion, realization, anger. "You can't do this. I have a contract." I handed him another paper. "Actually, you added an interesting clause to all management contracts when you took over. Employment is at will and may be terminated with or without cause. Your own words." He stared at the document, then back at me. This is revenge." "No," I said quietly. "This is business, the same business you conducted with me." Security escorted him out 20 minutes later. I moved back into my old office, where my nameplate was already being reinstalled. The next week was a whirlwind of rehiring. Maria Santos came back as Senior Testing Coordinator. Tom Bradley returned as Client Relations Manager. Jennifer Walsh took over technology integration, but with a focus on human-centered solutions rather than automation. I also reached out to 3 other talented people who'd been laid off during Clarion's cost-cutting. David Kim, an expert in special needs accommodations, Lisa Chang, who specialized in rural education challenges, and Robert Thompson, who had 15 years of experience in standardized testing protocols. Each conversation was the same. "We're building something better. We want to put students first again. Are you interested?" The answer was always yes. Our staff meeting that Friday felt like a reunion. We talked about our values, our mission, and our commitment to personalized educational assessment. No AI algorithms making decisions about children. No automated systems replacing human judgment. "We're going to do this the right way," I told the team. Quality over quantity. Relationships over efficiency metrics. Students over spreadsheets. The energy in the room was electric. These were people who'd been frustrated by Clarion's new direction, and now they had a chance to build something that aligned with their values. My first client visit was to Dr. Patricia Williams at Westfield District. We met in her office on a Tuesday afternoon, and her smile was genuine. "Walt, I can't tell you how relieved we are. The new Clarion approach just wasn't working for us." "Tell me more about that." "They kept pushing this AI system that couldn't handle our special needs students. When we raised concerns, they said we needed to adapt to modern assessment methods. It felt like they didn't understand education at all." I pulled out our new service proposal. "Here's what we're offering. Customized assessments designed by real educators, personal account management, and immediate support when you need it. No bots, No algorithms making decisions about your students. Patricia reviewed the documents. This looks like what we used to have with you at Clarion, but even better. That's the idea. By the end of the week, we'd signed contracts with 4 districts that had been considering leaving Clarion. Word spread quickly through education networks. Walt was back, and he was offering the kind of personalized service that had been disappearing from the industry. Our revenue for the first month exceeded projections by 40%. 3 weeks after his termination, Ronan filed a wrongful dismissal lawsuit. He claimed I'd orchestrated a malicious takeover specifically to fire him, and that his termination was motivated by personal revenge rather than business necessity. The case came before Judge Catherine Morrison, no relation to my lawyer Frank. I sat in the defendant's section with our legal team, watching Ronan and his attorney present their argument. "Your Honor," Ronan's lawyer said, "this is clearly a case of personal vendetta. Mr. Hensley bought the company solely to retaliate against my client." Our attorney stood up. "Your Honor, Mr. Pierce's own employment contract contains an at-will clause that he personally added to all management positions. He specifically wrote that employment could be terminated with or without cause for any business reason." She handed the judge a copy of the contract with Ronan's signature highlighted. "Furthermore," she continued, "Mr. Pierce was terminated due to poor performance, including a failed AI system rollout that resulted in the loss of multiple client contracts." The judge reviewed the documents for several minutes. "Mr. Pierce, did you or did you not add this at-will clause to management contracts?" "Yes, Your Honor, but..." "And were you or were you not employed under the same contract?" "Yes, but the circumstances..." Case dismissed. Ronan's face went red as he left the courtroom. Justice felt clean and simple. A month later, everything changed for Clarion. A technology blog called EduWatch published an investigative article titled "Clary AI's Data Problem: How Educational AI Used Student Information Without Consent." The reporter had discovered that Clary AI had been trained using thousands of student essays and test responses collected from school districts without proper consent forms. Sensitive information about students' personal lives, family situations, and private thoughts had been fed into the algorithm's learning system. Parents were furious. School boards demanded explanations. The state education department launched an investigation. Several districts filed complaints about privacy violations. I had nothing to do with the article. EduWatch had done their own investigation. But the timing couldn't have been better for ArchEd. We built our entire model on privacy protection and human oversight, which suddenly looked very appealing to nervous administrators. That week, 6 more districts called asking about our services. Our waitlist grew to over 20 potential clients. Clarion's stock price fell another 15% in 2 days. The real vindication came from an unexpected source: social media. A young teacher named Amy Chen posted a video on TikTok showing the difference between her experiences with Clarion's AI system and our new personalized approach. With the old system, she explained to her phone camera, I had to argue with the computer about why my student's essay about her immigrant grandmother wasn't concerning content. With ArchEd, I called Walt Hensley directly, and he helped me design an assessment that actually honored my student's story. The video went viral in education circles. Teachers started sharing their own stories with hashtags like #BringBackWalt and #HumanEducation. LinkedIn posts about our company multiplied daily. A principal in Ohio wrote, Walt Hensley personally visited our school to understand our unique challenges. When's the last time your vendor did that? A superintendent in Iowa posted, ArchEd doesn't just provide testing, they provide partnership. This is how education services should work. Our phone rang constantly. We had to hire 2 more staff members just to handle intake calls from potential clients. I'd never wanted fame or attention, but watching educators share their positive experiences felt better than any revenge I could have planned. 6 months after the acquisition, I launched something I'd always wanted to try: the ArchEd Opportunity Program. We partnered with local high schools to offer paid internships for recent graduates, regardless of whether they plan to attend college. Not everyone needs a 4-year degree to contribute to education, I announced at our first information session. We'll train you in educational technology, testing coordination, and client support. If you're dedicated and willing to learn, we're willing to teach. 12 students applied for our first round of 3 positions. We interviewed each one personally, looking for curiosity, empathy, and work ethic rather than test scores or GPAs. Maria, Tyler, and Jasmine became our first interns. Within 6 months, all 3 were full-time employees with benefits and career development plans. Their fresh perspectives and enthusiasm energized the entire team. Local news covered the program, focusing on how we were creating opportunities for students who might not otherwise enter professional careers. The story ran on the evening news with the headline, "Local company puts students first." Other businesses in town started asking about our internship model. We'd accidentally become a case study in alternative workforce development. One Tuesday morning, I found an email in my inbox from an unexpected sender, Ronan Pierce. The subject line was simply, a question. "Walt," he wrote, "I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I wanted to ask for your advice. I'm struggling to find new work in this industry. People ask about Clarion, and I don't know what to say. How do you rebuild when you've made mistakes?" I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it. Part of me remembered the young man who'd been excited about improving education, even if his methods were flawed. I typed back, "Ronan, success in education isn't about having the newest technology or the flashiest ideas. It's about remembering that behind every test score is a real student with real dreams. Never forget who built the foundation you walked on, and never forget that students come first." He replied an hour later, "Thank you. I think I understand now." I never heard from him again, but 6 months later, Elena told me he'd taken a job as a data analyst at a nonprofit that helped underserved schools. He was apparently doing good work. Today marks 1 year since I bought the company that fired me. We're celebrating at our annual staff meeting, which has grown from 12 people to 38. Our client list includes 42 school districts across 5 states. The boardroom table is the same one where I was humiliated 18 months ago, but now it's surrounded by people who share my values and commitment to students. I pull out my gold pen, the one I've used to sign important documents for 20 years, and place it in the center of the table next to a handwritten note. "I never needed to fight," the note reads. "I just needed to build better." Sarah from accounting raises her coffee mug. "To Walt, who showed us what real leadership looks like." The room fills with applause, but I'm thinking about something else. The email I received yesterday from Dr. Williams. Her district's test scores had improved significantly since switching to our personalized assessment approach. That's what matters. Not the revenge, not the vindication, but the fact that we're actually helping students learn and grow. I look around the room at these incredible people who trusted me enough to build something new. Tomorrow we'll get back to work serving schools and supporting students. But today we celebrate the fact that sometimes the best revenge is just doing the right thing.